It seems that nowadays most hetero men like women with big butts, and most women prefer having big butts themselves. Whether it's corn actresses, OF models, IG models who live from their figures, lots of people seem to live off their big butts nowadays. Without talking, of course, about all these trainers, all these female trainers that have enviable figures, and they sell you all these programs trying to have you look like them. If only you train like them, if only you eat like them, then you too can also have this tiny little waist and these huge hips and butt. The problem starts when we find that many of these trainers, many of these IG models with perfect enviable bodies, their body was actually not gained by training. It was actually not built like they say it was, but it was purchased at the surgeon's office. We're going to be looking at this trend of trainers with BBLs not telling their clients that they actually have BBLs and selling everyone the idea that it's just genetics and training and basically scamming everybody, as well as many other things that I have ready for you guys. But before we get there, hi guys, welcome back. My name is Mari. I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel, to press the notification bell, and also to give me your likes and your comments. Help my channel grow. Some context. So everybody has always had preferences. You know, some people may have preferred these larger butts on girls. Some people have preferred maybe the skinnier girls, but we do know that back in the day, because I was actually watching an episode of Sex and the City not so long ago, and they were using the whole "you have a big butt" as an insult. So back in like the 90s, early 2000s, it was not really seen as a positive thing to have a bigger derriere. It was actually seen as an insult. And by certain cultures, whether by Latino culture or whether by hip-hop culture, it was always very popular amongst them, but not so much amongst other ones, till we had the Kardashians come in around 2007, 2008, and everybody knows that they have big butts. Fake, but whatever, it doesn't really matter at this point because they're known for that. Kim originally did have a supposedly natural butt, and then she started becoming very popular from that, and then she actually ended up getting one of the first BBLs among celebrities, because BBLs, Brazilian butt lifts, refers to the procedure where fat is taken off, whether from your flanks, your arms, or your waist, wherever else, and it's transferred to your hips and your buttocks. And she did have one of the first ones among celebrities, and she's ended up having many of them because, you know, she was just known for her butt and she just kind of went crazy off of it, as well as her sisters. And after that, it seems like absolutely everybody, like, can we all look back and remember that? Seems like in the last decade, after the Kardashians and stuff, everyone went insane with the big butts situation. You know, on Instagram, we saw it absolutely everywhere. Like, it was just girls trying to have the biggest butt possible. Men as well, just becoming completely obsessed with these figures. Corn became flooded by women with these figures, as well as OF girlies and, you know, absolutely everybody. And to an extent, I always found some positivity in that, because pre-Kardashians, it seemed like it was just a stick thin standard of beauty that was in. And for girls that are just naturally curvier, myself included, we felt like, as a teenager, I felt very much ugly and just like not in, because I was like, I'm not stick thin, and I couldn't be, even if I, you know, dieted and just trained to death. I'm just never gonna be these extremely like thin boned girls. So I did get some diversity in that respect, but again, everyone went absolutely insane with this trend, and that's what it was at the end of the day. It was a trend, and we know that now because it's actually not really a trend anymore. We'll talk about that in the end, but now people are actually downsizing their BBLs and Ozempic, and that look is much more in. And I do think that the huge butt, tiny waist, huge implants will still be in for a long time when it comes to pages like OF or corn sites or IG models, because they are marketed more so in that way, and that is kind of the standard of beauty for them, but not so much for like models, influencers, or just regular women. That being said, the problem comes when trainers, you know, when nutritionists and trainers and all these girls selling these programs online to get you, or to get women specifically to buy their programs, insist that they're all natural and it's just genetics and good training, and that if you paid for the programs that you also are gonna look like them. And we're gonna see why that is not the case, at least for many of them. So we're gonna start with more obvious examples. Here we have this girl, this is in Spanish, and basically it says, the muscles are made in the gym, they're fed in the kitchen, and they're built in the bedroom. I guess she means like when you're recovering. And we're gonna take a look at her. As we can see, her glutes absolutely do not match her thighs, her hamstrings, which is, you know, a telltale sign generally. And here she is squatting, and given the caption that she's sharing with us, given the fact that she's like, muscles are made in the gym and whatnot, you know, it does make me think that she sells these kind of programs, and that she lives from this image that she's actually a fit girl, and that she has this all by genetics and by her training. And I don't doubt that her or any of the other girls that we're going to see train hard and maybe even have good genetics in the glutes department, but this is clearly very unnatural. And again, I wanted to start with a more obvious example, but we're gonna see some examples that are actually very subtle. And it makes me laugh because people, whether it's men or women, always always have so much to say about girls who do these kind of procedures, and they're always like, well, you know, nobody likes fake women, and it's always so obvious when they have things done. And honestly, no, it's not. No, it's not. Like, some cases like these, some people may miss, some others maybe not so much, but we're gonna see some examples that are actually very hard to miss. For instance, this girl here, we can see that there's something suspicious going on with her glutes, because if she were someone that had built her glutes to this extent just by pure strength and mere strength training and, you know, progressive overload and protein and caloric excess and whatever, she would have very, very strong muscles, and they would contract when she would be doing these kind of exercises, and they don't really contract, you know, like we just see these two balls of fat. I'm sure there's some muscle in there as well, but it's so covered by the fat that it just looks very odd to the human eye. But you see, again, this is the kind of example that on closer inspection, sure, it starts to look a little weird, but for many people, this actually looks completely normal and completely natural, and many women may see this and buy her program, and many men may see this and subscribe to her page thinking that she has, you know, blessed genetics. Here we have an example that is extremely obvious, and it says her ass must be fake. And let's see, you know, because with a caption like this, you would think that what she's gonna show now is going to be her with, you know, the kind of ass that looks extremely natural or something, and that's why she's like, people say that it's fake, but it's actually very natural. So you're gonna be shocked when you see what's actually going on. Yep, it's a whole diaper. She's literally squatting with a whole diaper. I don't know if she's doing this to gain attention, or she really, like, she's so far gone that she really thinks people think this is natural. And again, I don't care if she gets her butt done or whatever it is that she does. It's more the fact that they're selling this idea that it's natural. Like, she's literally saying on her caption, her ass must be fake, like, you know, like with this face, like complaining about the people who say these things. And it's like, do you think we're dumb? Like, honestly, do you really think we're that dumb that we think this is something you were born with, a whole diaper butt? And guys, something I should have mentioned earlier, but BBLs are actually one of the most dangerous, if not in fact at this point the most dangerous plastic surgery procedure. It's something that, given the way it's performed, you know, they basically take, like I was saying, fat from different parts of the body and then they inject it into the butt. There are some areas in the butt, some arteries there, that if you inject fat, you can literally die, and it's actually a plastic surgery from which most people die yearly. So it is a crazy thing to risk your health just to end up looking like that, and most of the time it's not even a good look. And I understand some women might be insecure about certain things, you know, I get where they're coming from, but I always think that when it comes to this, because there are some parts of the body that, you know, I would get why you were gonna get plastic surgery, because you can't really alter them, you know, whether it's your boobs, your nose, whatever, you can't really change that in the gym. And if it's something that you're extremely insecure about, then I mean, whatever. But when it comes to this, I've seen girls that have maybe not such great genetics when it comes to the butt and leg department make extremely good changes with years of consistency, and, you know, not even years, like just with a few months at first, with some good training, good food, and they end up looking absolutely amazing. And I feel like they look so much better than girls like the one that we just saw with the diaper butt. So it's absolutely insane to risk your health for something like this. The deaths are lowering, thank God. Like, it does seem to be something that it doesn't happen as often, but it's still a risk, you know. So I think many women, especially in places like the United States, they get this done and the surgeon's like, nobody has died in my practice or something, and they're like, okay, well, guess I'll do it. But it is something to really keep in mind. And a lot of these women don't even go through just one, because with any sort of fat procedure, a lot of the fat ends up being reabsorbed, so they end up having to go through different rounds of BBLs in order to achieve the looks that they want. That's what the Kardashians have done as well. So they're risking their lives many times just to achieve that look, which is extremely sad. But regarding the diaper butt aesthetic, many people, when you say BBL, they just think that this is what it looks like, you know. They assume that everybody ends up looking like this. Like, if I were to tell you right now, hey, I'm getting a BBL, you would probably think that I would end up looking like this, because this is just the famous look. And this is what I was talking about earlier, that everyone's like, oh, I can spot, you know, a girl with a BBL so far away. And we're gonna see examples of when it's not so subtle. Like, I've actually seen really good examples. I can't share today, but I've seen them on like different forums and stuff, and that you would never guess that they have this done. When it comes to cases like this, women end up looking this botched, because to me this is just looking botched, because one, they end up, you know, like the very common thing, they ended up going to like some really ghetto place, whether, I don't know, in like Turkey or Mexico. They're actually great surgeons in these places, but it's kind of like the meme, you know, the cliche that they go to these places, or Colombia, they spend a lot less money and they just end up looking completely botched. But this is actually a lot more rare than people think. Like, you have to go to a very, very bad place to end up with this look. What ends up happening most of the time is that they either come in with like very unrealistic expectations, as in we see the legs of these girls, they're clearly very thin legs, and they're like, I don't care that I have thin legs, just give me the biggest butt possible. The surgeon's probably like, maybe he tells them, maybe he just wants their money, but he's probably like, you know that this is gonna look crazy, no? And they just don't care about how crazy they are because they just want to have the bigger thing possible. Or they could also just come in directly asking for a fake look. This happens a lot, especially with breast augmentations. Like, you guys know that cliche of like the two tennis, not even tennis, like the two basketballs that everyone can tell they're fake. And this is why people are always like, oh, girls with fake boobs, like it's so easy to spot them or whatever. No, it's because most of the women that end up with that look specifically ask for it. Like Victoria Beckham, she's a really good example of this. She clearly went in either with crazy expectations or asking for something like this, and that's why she ended up looking botched, and she actually ended up removing them. And we see this all the time. But then there are other women like Salma Hayek that people swear, especially men, they swear she's natural, and it's like, no, she's actually not. She has very clear implants, very obvious ones, but she chose to go in a more natural route. So when people end up looking this botched, again, it's either just they went to an awful place, or they specifically asked for that diaper look, or maybe it's like some of the examples that we saw earlier, that it's a hit or miss, but your eye is so trained at this point that you know what to look for. Like this woman, nobody can convince me that this woman either went to an absolute horrible place, basically a butchery, or she asked for this kind of look. Like, I don't understand how you would get there unless you go to like your neighbor's backyard and she performed it on you, like he just took a bunch of lard or something and like put it on your butt, or you specifically asked for this diaper vibe. Like, I just don't see how else it would happen. And this is, again, the kind of example that we can all tell there's something going on there. We can all obviously tell that it's not real, but let's take a look at some more subtle examples, because I swear they exist. This girl, for instance, she's a bit controversial because some people online swear that she's natural, but I have heard of some before and after pictures that don't really match. And here she looks like she could be natural, honestly, and there are plenty of women who actually look like that naturally, but it's more so, once again, we're gonna see her working out, the way her muscles don't really seem to contract. It's just a bit odd, like especially here, they don't really contract. It's just this very telltale sign of a BBL, you know, like the two balls, because that's what they are, the two butt cheeks just like bouncing. It's very strange looking and not very typical of a natural butt, especially one that is this fit, you know what I mean? Like, if a woman were to get this kind of glutes naturally, she would have to have so much muscle mass at that point that I don't really imagine it bouncing in that way. And I am someone who actually works out enough to be able to tell that difference. I just don't see this really happening. But I mean, yeah, she looks absolutely great. I really hope she's not selling programs or like courses to younger girls who think that they're gonna look like this naturally, because most likely she's had some help. We see it here with the squats as well, the strange bouncing, as well as the projection that simply just does not really fit her thighs. But again, this is the kind of example that is very easy. It's very easy to miss. And since we're talking about very easy to miss examples, very subtle ones, I want to show you guys a clear example of a very subtle BBL. Let's take a look. As we can see, this girl is naturally on the thinner side, lower body fat, which, by the way, lots of influencers and perhaps even celebrities will swear that they have not gotten a BBL done, even though there's pretty much proof because there's before and after photos, because they didn't have enough body fat. And that's absolutely not the case. If you have very little body fat, like in the case of this woman here, you can still get a BBL. It's called a skinny BBL because there's less fat to transfer, but in my opinion, it actually even ends up looking better. Like, I think she looks absolutely fantastic. I don't know how she will look from the back. Maybe the back would be a telltale sign that it's not real, but from the front, if you saw this girl walking down the street, you would not really guess that it's not real, or like, as in it's, you know, plastic or fat transferred at this point. You would think that she's naturally built this way. And again, I can't show it here, but I've seen some cases that look absolutely amazing and that you would never guess that they're not the person's natural genetics or training. Another thing, I feel so sorry, the same way that I was saying when I was a teenager and I just felt like, you know, I wasn't good enough or whatever because I wasn't as skinny as all these models, because, you know, in the 2000s, you know how it was. Not so much when I was a teenager, more so when I was a child, but same way I feel bad for that. I feel bad for girls nowadays with the standard of beauty. You know, they're thinner or they have like lower body fat or their bones are just like on the smaller side and they think they have to do these crazy procedures to fit in. Because I genuinely think, I'm not even saying this to be cliche, I don't think everyone's beautiful, but I do think different kind of bodies can be beautiful. Like I can name so many different kinds of women right now that have very different bodies, whether it's thinner women or taller women or shorter women or curvier women who are just extremely beautiful. And I do think there are different tastes by men from all ranges. So I wish it would have just worked out. Obviously, maybe she was never gonna get to the point that she got here with the BBL, but had this woman worked out, and she looks so young as well, I really think she could have really improved herself. And you know, again, there's nothing wrong with her, but assuming she really wanted that curvier look, has she gained a lot of weight with, you know, protein and healthy fats, not just crazy like dirty bulking? And has she like progressively overloaded her weights and just given it time, perhaps hired somebody? Like all that money she spent on the BBL, she could have maybe spent with a trainer and a nutritionist. I really think she could have gotten really, really good results. And considering the fact that with this BBL, it's just more the hips and the thighs, more the hips and the butt, but the thighs remain the same, even though you can't tell here, but they don't really transfer fat to the thighs. She would have looked absolutely better if she would have just stuck with a training regime, because then it would have all been proportional. I don't know, like I just see this baseline and I'm like, she gained weight and worked out, she would have looked absolutely amazing. But it is what it is. We know we live in a very fast society. People don't really want to work out for things. They don't want to wait for things. They want everything absolutely now, whether it's the movies now on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Amazon. Yeah, like I want things now. I want Uber Eats. Like everything has got to be now. And you know, with dieting and with losing weight, Ozempic, why would I go through that when I can just inject myself with Ozempic? So it is just the culture that we're living in. Nobody wants to sacrifice their time and effort in order to see results, but at a longer time rate. And some influencers have actually come out and admitted that they do have a BBL. This girl here, her name is Sky Sutton. Hope I'm saying that right. She's this Australian IG model and like also fitness influencer. She's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, as we can see here, her butt projects in a very extreme way. You know, we can see that her thighs are also very strong, very defined. So we can tell that she actually does work out. I absolutely believe her that, you know, she spends a lot of time in the gym and with her diet and that she has good genetics. But she has admitted in the past to having fat injections. And she's actually come out and said that she has a very fast metabolism and that all that fat has been absorbed. But that's not possible. That's not the way these things work. While some of the fat will be reabsorbed, and possibly a lot of it if you do have a faster metabolism like she claims she does, there's always going to remain some fat because it is a surgery at the end of the day. Like no one would do it if it's temporary, you know? So some of it would always stay, but at least she's admitted some of it, you know? At least she's admitted that she has had some fat injections, and she is one of these fitness influencers that sells these programs and this image to whether, you know, younger girls or also men who follow her, and maybe she has OF as well, I'm not sure. But it makes me question how many of these girls, because I've seen so many, and so have you probably, so many of these profiles of girls on IG who have absolutely beautiful bodies, and how many of them probably have some sort of plastic help, if you know what I mean. Maybe not a full-on BBL, but you know, there's other procedures that you can get, whether like fat injections or like some even have implants perhaps, or even some like filler. There's actually a whole filler that you can inject in your butt called Sculptra. So it could honestly be that many of them actually have had help or just even Photoshop, and that's why it does look that unrealistic. I wanted to share here another example that it's very easy to miss. I don't know how much of these you're gonna be able to see because YouTube does not really allow frontal nudity, or these girls are not nude, but you know, like in a bikini. So I might have to just put like a filter on top of a lot of them. But this girl, hope you can see her abs section. Basically, she has extremely defined abdominals, and that's a very uncommon thing in women, even very low fat women. It's just extremely difficult for women to get to that percentage of low body fat. And most of the time, it's actually extremely unhealthy as well. And she has like a whole six-pack going on while also having like, you know, some fat on her hips and her butt. And what I do believe she's gotten done besides the breast implants, which that's completely different because you can't grow your breasts in the gym, so it's not the same. Like people know they're fake, unlike the body. But her ab section, I think she's had in what's called ab edging, which is when they come in and just take out all that fat so that your ab muscles become more noticeable. And I also think she's likely have had fat transferred to her hips and butt because the proportions are just off. For someone who would be at that percentage of body fat so low, you would not expect to see the size of hips and butt that she has unless there's been some help, or unless she's some sort of like genetic anomaly, which is very unlikely, especially considering that she has already other cosmetic procedures. So it's very easy to assume that she would have other ones as well. And I wanted to also show you guys this girl. So this girl is actually natural. And here's how we can tell. Well, we see that she does have a lot of projection, but let's also keep in mind that these leggings that women wear nowadays in the gym, they sculpture and they lift your butt, and they also like cinch in your waist in such a way that it can look kind of fake, even though it's not. I mean, I have some of these leggings and trust me, the effect is really, really nice for sure. And also we see that she's posing. So let's keep that into account, because a lot of these girls are not posing at all and they still look like this. And that's when it becomes odd. You know, of course, also we see that her thighs do match her glutes. They're very muscular, both on the front and the back. And when she turns around, it's very, very obvious that it's a natural body. She doesn't have crazy hips. What she does have is crazy quads, and in a good way. You can tell she works out. You can tell she has muscle mass. And she also has the very common hip dips. Those are the little dips here in the hips that most women have. And the ones that don't, again, either they're a genetic anomaly or they've had fat injected into them. So this is a natural body. This is what it will look like. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely stunning, yet imperfect. And that's, in my opinion, the way it's supposed to look. And the way I even prefer it to look. And I didn't want to finish this video without mentioning the queen of the BBL herself. I swear this girl, like we talked about Kim and how it kind of started after her, but I really do think it became excessively popular after Kylie Jenner. And we're gonna see her before she had any procedures done and after, and we're gonna see her now that she's actually downsized her BBL, because remember what I was saying, that it's becoming less and less popular on social media and in the mainstream in general. So let's take a look at her. And keep in mind that she said that these changes were due to puberty and gaining weight. We see that same diapered look that we were seeing earlier, and here she is downsizing. And I actually think she looks better with the downsize. But she's a clear example of why this is so unattainable, because if girls wanted to look like Kylie Jenner and they started out like she did in the beginning, all they had to do, it's quite a lot and the recovery is crazy, but all they had to go through was a BBL. But now if they want to look like her or her sisters, not only do they have to go through a BBL, they also have to downsize and take Ozempic. So it becomes more and more unattainable for most women. So yeah, I really hope you can tell me what you think about all this. I want to emphasize that my problem is not what they choose to do with their body. I mean, it's literally their body. They can do whatever. My problem is with the fact that they're acting like this is just genetics and training. I mean, no, it's very, very obvious. Sometimes not so much, which is even more dangerous. But there's been some help there, and it's extremely manipulative to younger audiences, or whether it's the women buying their programs or the men that are subscribed, just to have them think that this is all result of genetics and training. So I don't know if you guys think that they have some sort of responsibility, because on one side I do get it, like nobody wants to be forced to tell the world what you've had done. But at the same time, it's like you can't really be out here selling the keys to growing your glutes when you yourself haven't really done it in that way. And also the way I see it is because I hear a lot of men always complaining about how they detest the fake look in women. And like I was saying earlier, and I think I also showed some good examples, women that undergo plastic surgery don't always look fake. It's most of the time a result of just unrealistic expectations, a bad surgeon, or just directly asking for the fake look. But I've noticed that people have in mind when they say that we don't like fake women, they have this crazy, very obvious fake look in mind. But regardless of whether the woman that has undergone plastic surgery looks fake or not, she still seems to get lots of attention online, lots of validation. So I totally understand women when they get very annoyed with this side of men being like, oh, well, actually, we love natural beauty. We prefer women to look a certain way, but then the natural girls don't really seem to get nowhere near as much attention, nowhere near as much opportunities as the one who have undergone all these procedures, whether BBL, the boobs, whatever it is that they've gone, nose jobs. So it is extremely contradicting. And I always tell men, I don't really care. Like you can do whatever you want, and I have my own standards of beauty for myself, so it won't really affect me in that way. But if you do want to see women have a certain look in society, well, you could start for yourself. You could start maybe not liking the women that you don't want to see represented, and maybe liking and taking on dates and encouraging the ones that you do want to see them more of, because it gets very tiring constantly hearing all this like, oh, we don't like all all these scantily dressed women with a million things done, but then it's like, do you not? Because they have a million followers and 90% of them are guys. Yeah, you're gonna see like, oh, most of them just want to have a casual relationship with them, but most of them have boyfriends, to be honest. Or lots of them get married as well. And it's not like the average woman even has all sort of this optionality and availability with guys in the first place as these girls do. So I think when it comes down to is that if a woman is attractive, she is going to have more suitors regardless of what procedures she's gone under. And it's something that men maybe may not be at a point where they're ready to admit that they do in fact like women who've had procedures done, so long as they look natural. But I do think it's an interesting conversation to be had. So please let me know in the comments section. I'd love to hear you. Leave me your likes, leave me your comments, subscribe, and I will see you very soon.